Hey folks, just wanted to shoot a video tonight and show a haul that I got from Girder Music. Girder Music is an online store that specializes in Christian vinyl. Well, Christian music in general. They also have quite a few CDs as well. I personally like to support Girder Music because they're keeping some of the old Christian rock alive. It's been kind of frustrating at times because in the mainstream, a rock band's discography is kind of, back catalog is kind of respected. If you really want to, you can go back and buy old Iron Maiden, old Metallica, old Beatles, old Kiss albums. They're really not hard to find. At least, I mean, you can find, if you look hard enough, you can find original pressings. You can find reissues. But when it comes to Christian rock, there are a lot of good artists that put out some really tremendous albums, and they're forgotten. Used to be, several years ago that I could walk into a Christian bookstore and see a lot of artists that I was really excited about and couldn't wait to get their records or CDs. And these days I really don't even, I've been to the Christian bookstore a couple times lately, and I find a few things here and there that's pretty cool, but for the most part, it's most of the artists I listen to or used to listen to, still listen to, but they just aren't out there, even on Christian labels anymore. They're doing independent stuff. They're having to depend on crowdsourcing for their to put out new projects or even reissues. So very glad that Girder Music is out there and doing what they do. And a couple weeks ago they had a ridiculous sale, and that's what I'm going to show tonight. And so let's get to it. The first album is Joe English Band. Joe English Band Live. This is Myrrh Records, 1984. Joe English was a drummer for the band Paul McCartney and Wings. That's his claim to fame. And then this is one of his solo albums. It's been a long time since I've heard some Joe English. Looking forward to giving that a spin. This next band is very well connected to Joe English because the group was Forerunner, and they're basically the Joe English Band without Joe English. This is their project. If the guy in the middle here looks familiar to you, it's because he's John Lowry, the keyboardist for Petra. Now, this is what he was doing before he went into Petra. This album is a 1984 release on Refuge Records. I couldn't believe the price I paid for this album. It was just so ridiculously cheap. Great stuff. Mark Hurd, Ashes and Light. Mark Hurd is one of the greatest singer-songwriters that's ever walked. Unfortunately, he passed in the early 90s. Complications, I think, from a heart attack after performing at one of the biggest Christian rock festivals, Cornerstone, one year. This is a 1984 album on Home Sweet Home Records. I'm not that familiar with this particular title, but if it's Mark Hurd, it's going to be good. I just know it. This next album is from perhaps one of the greatest alternative bands on the Christian scene. It's Darn Floor Big Bite. If that name sounds somewhat familiar, it's because it's the Daniel Amos band. They changed their name several times over the course of their career, even more so than they changed genres. Started out as kind of country rock, moved all the way to alternative. This is definitely an alternative album. Let's see if I can. 1987, Frontline. So, yeah, I believe this was the first album after they had finished their trilogy, The Alarma Chronicles. Yeah, very, very good album to have. All right, this next guy is one of my favorite musicians of all time. John Gibson, On the Run. John is a R&B soul artist. I guess maybe the closest comparison I can make would be to Stevie Wonder, who is one of his idols and an influence on him that he definitely wears on his sleeve. In fact, at one point in his career, he not this album, but an album later down the road, he would cover Stevie Wonder's Have a Little Talk with God, and Stevie Wonder would actually play harmonica on that cut with him. John's a fabulous musician, and I think he's working in Christian radio now. But yeah, this was a 1986 release on Frontline. The next album is another John Gibson album. This was the next album that he did, called Change of Heart. What's notable about this album, one, it opens with a cover of the James Ingram, Michael McDonald hit, Yamo Be There. And then the second track, The Wall, features a pre-Can't Touch This MC Hammer. So John had MC Hammer on his album before anybody really knew who he was, which is pretty cool. Another good album, and got it ridiculously cheap. Very, very glad to have picked that one up. Love this album. This is the debut of Rick Kua. At this point in his career, Rick was at a crossroads. He was the bass player for a band called The Outlaws. At this point, he could have stayed with them, I guess, or he could have joined with the jazz fusion group Spyro Gyra, or go solo, and he decided to go solo. This album, I suppose it sounds a little dated, but I love it. It's not a real heavy album. It's rock, but it's not heavy. It's not hard rock. Though it maybe goes there for a couple of cuts, including my favorite, I Want to Be Like You. This is a 1982 release on Refuge Records. The next three albums come from one of my favorite rock bands of all time. It's DeGarmo and Key. Yes, I know that album cover probably doesn't do much to sell this band. On this particular album, it probably sounds a little dated, Eddie was doing that 80s heavy synthesizer sound. Still had some great songs on it. Ready or Not, Let the Whole World Sing. Just some fantastic songs. I can't defend the wardrobe choices on this album, especially Eddie. Eddie DeGarmo is the one right here in the Don Johnson-esque suit. Dana Key, the late Dana Key, is right here. So tragic not to have Dana Key with us anymore. Died at far too young an age. One of my heroes. Just hate that he's gone. The back cover doesn't get much better with Eddie DeGarmo jumping with the synthesizer. But Mission of Mercy, DeGarmo and Key. This was a 1983 Power Disc release. Was glad to grab that. And then the follow-up album is Communication. Again, the cover is a little lacking, but there are still some great songs on here, like Are You Ready? And 666. 666 was actually submitted to MTV. I believe it was initially rejected. They had to make some changes, and then it was actually played on MTV. And so yeah, this album actually boasts an MTV video. And this was a 1984 Power Disc release. And the final DeGarmo and Key album I picked up was this one called Streetlight. This saw DeGarmo and Key kind of reinvent themselves a little bit. Eddie went from the kind of 80s synth sound to more of a organ sound. And of course, and then Dana Key's guitar was probably brought a little bit more to the forefront. Great electric guitar solos. This whole album rocks. Songs like, it just explodes with every moment. On first track on side one, then Warzone, Addie, Soldier of Fortune, all the way through the second side with great songs like Don't Throw Your Love Away and Holy Hustle and Up on a Cross. Just a fantastic album. Kind of a plane back with just rain on the street, but I tell you what, this is a fantastic album. It's been a Jerusalem kind of week for me. The next three albums are Jerusalem albums, including the debut, Warrior. Yeah, it's got a little bit of ring wear on it, but I can deal with that. This is a very hard album to find. 1982 release on Lion and Lamb. Yeah. So then the next album is Jerusalem's Can't Stop Us Now, which was a 1983 Refuge Records release. Not too familiar with this album, but it's Jerusalem, so I'm excited about it. I have heard this one. It's a good album. It's a live album, Jerusalem Live in the USA. Again on Refuge, wow, I'm getting old. 1985. So it's three more Jerusalem albums for the collection. And now for the metal section of this score, I've got two more albums. They're both metal, and they're great albums. First one being Barren Cross, Atomic Arena. This is a 1988 Enigma Records release. Great songs like Imaginary Music. All these albums are still sealed. And then finally, man, not saved the best for last. How about some Striper? In God We Trust. I hope when I crack this open that I'll have the big dollar bill insert. Very, very pleased to have gotten this album. I don't need to say a whole lot about Striper. So that was the ridiculous score I made from Girder Music. I wish I could have gotten a video up. I had felt well enough to get a video up a couple days ago because they had another ridiculous sale on CDs. But I didn't. So, you know, you might want to try to find them. You can go to Girder. Let's see, is it Girder.com? Yeah, GirderMusic.com for if you want to try and sign up or start an account or get on their Facebook page so you can get some updates if you're interested. Of course, then the boxing I did was from Redemption Vinyl, which is their subscription service, and you can find them at redemptionvinyl.com. Yeah, so if you're into this stuff, give them a shot. You know, we need to try to support some of the people that are trying to keep some of the great Christian rock that we have enjoyed in the past alive. So that's the end of this little conversation. I hope you'll comment below. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. So have a great weekend.